Today we continue with our sermon series for the month of August. We are sharing on this through the month, and I believe strongly that God is doing a work in our midst. I believe that He's renewing our strength, our faith, building our trust, building our dependence on Him, and helping us to, pick ourselves and go after all that He has for us. Our sermon series for this month, for those of you who might be here for the very first time through this month, our sermon series for this month is entitled Don't Quit. Don't quit. We are learning how to keep going, how to keep fighting, how to keep pursuing God's purpose and plan for our lives, regardless of what comes our way, so that we can keep growing in the faith, keep praising God and pleasing Him in all that we do, so that we may impact and influence the lives of many people that we live with, people that we work with, people that we interact with on an everyday basis. As we begin the sermon today, I'd like us to do a reality check. Are you with me? I'd like us to do a reality check. I'd like us to be brutally honest with ourselves as individuals and as residents of Mombasa County, people that live in the nation of Kenya. And allow me to just be the first one to go, the first one to do a reality check. You see, I live in a city where sometimes I wonder whether the leadership cares or whether they see the things that I see. This past Friday, we did a prayer drive as a staff team, and we went into Mikindani, drove around Mikindani. We went into parts of Changamwe, and the areas around there. And you look around and you ask, I ask myself questions. I'm like, do our leaders see this? Do our leaders see sometimes some things are disasters waiting to happen? For example, when you build a house behind another house, and it has, a narrow road that only one car can pass at a time. What if an emergency happened, a disaster happened, and you're trying to get emergency vehicles in and people are trying to run out? What will happen? Is it that we don't see these things? Or the issues of garbage? Infrastructure. Broken pipes, water, fresh water, broken pipes that go broken 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And there's somebody who, do you feel what I feel? I mean, this is a tourist city. And this is not inside a slum somewhere. This is by the side of the road. And you want tourists to come here. And there are people who depend upon that tourism for their livelihood. Are you getting what I'm sharing? This is the city we live in. And there are people who are supposed to work and deliver services. You drive, if we just keep that picture there, just keep that one there. Sometimes you drive by the roadblocks. And they're not really roadblocks for security checks. They're like collection points. Let's not even say bribery, or it's a place to collect money. The other day they stopped me in the evening and they said they want to check my insurance. They checked, asked me for my driving license. I gave them, checked my tires, simply because my driving license didn't have something inside. Checked my tires, checked my lights, put the signal this side, put this side, full light, dim. And then the guy comes and he leans over my window and he says, "Oh, you pick a kura." Yes, I voted, and so he began to talk about the election, smiling, like I am not understanding something, and he has not found anything for him to, collect money or extort money out of me for, and so he's just now being friendly. Finally, he says, "Basi tupatie chai bana ya kuna baridi." What do tourists think of us? What do we think about ourselves? Do our leaders see these things? These things discourage me. These things discourage me. The nurses can be on strike for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month. It feels like nothing good is happening here or elsewhere in the country. Think with me for a moment. Are there times when, to be honest, it's painful to be a Kenyan? Let me hear, what are those things that disturb you? I've told you mine. I've told you my reality. I've been very brutally honest with myself. Let me hear from you. What are those things that disturb you? Just quiet, shout them out. Let me hear.
That there is no ferry that takes to the island, so people are dying. In Lamu.
In Lamu, there is no ferry, and the small boats that I use sometimes, because it's deep sea in between the island and the mainland, capsize, people die. Yeah. Matatu drivers they pick up and drop passengers anywhere. As in, it's like we have no stages. It's like Kenya doesn't have bus stops. Do we have bus stops? What else? Let me hear you guys. Yeah? That you can go through 2 weeks without water. What are you expected to do? All of us need to move by the riverside somewhere. Listen. For you to get a job, you need to know somebody who knows somebody. And sometimes even when you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, it's still tough because you've been jobless for, let's say, a year or 2 years. And when you're looking for work, the person who is supposed to employ you still wants something from you. Are you getting me? Do these things trouble you? Sometimes I travel around and I look at other places. Let's see Rwanda. And I look at other places and you wonder, is it that they are better? This is Rwanda, Kigali. There are a few other photos of Kigali. Let's see them. That's Kigali, Rwanda. Are you getting me? This is Singapore. I was in Singapore sometime early this year, and here is my thoughts. There's a place. Give me here. Around this place, literally you can eat off the floor, and it's out in the open. It's and you can eat on the floor. The place is so clean. I do not see garbage in this city. Let me, people jogging, running around. I'll tell you a reason why. This is a bus stop. This is what? There's not even oil on the road pouring. It's like their vehicles don't use oil. And they have seats. Nobody has taken them home. All right, give me. I think there's another one photo, if I am not wrong. Yeah, that's what the one I was looking for. Now, something amazing. Look around. Look around. Nobody tried to throw something, and it didn't go in, and they walked away. I mean, just look. Those are garbage bins. Do these things trouble you? I know I can go on and on and on. I used Singapore because in 1970 Kenya was better economically than Singapore. Our economy, our GDP was higher than the GDP of Singapore. That's why I use that nation. Their airport is the best in the world. You go to the airport, you refuse to leave. Place is beautiful. Place is beautiful. Changi Airport. Check Google. And yet we were ahead of them in 1970. So what is wrong with this nation? What is wrong with this nation? What is wrong with us? As I said, I can go on and on. But at this point, I know you're feeling sorry for yourself. And you feel like quitting and maybe giving up. And you're thinking about our leaders and thinking, oh, it's not me, it's those people who keep voting for those others, you know? And that can go on in your mind. But just pause right there for a moment. Let's look at the story. Let's consider another story. A different story. A story that oftentimes we gloss over. We just pass over. And never really get to see and feel the pain of the young man in the story. We touched on his life a little last week. But today I want us to just shine a spotlight on him. A man that had gone through a harrowing experience, difficult life, like nothing you and I have ever gone through. These young men had faced difficult and painful circumstances. He had experienced a genocide, survived, a destruction of his home city. Some of his relatives had been beheaded, killed in cold blood. Murdered, really, is the right word. Even so, some people chased into the temple and killed in there. And the temple burned to the ground and the city burnt after looting had happened. Daniel had gone through a difficult time together with the rest of the people that survived and were taken to captivity. I'd like us to turn together to the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 36, verse 17 to 21. 17 to 21. As if things wouldn't become any sadder, if there is such a word. Let me just do that. Let me just dampen us down a little bit more. Because sometimes the Bible says that the Lord has to strip us empty before he can heal us, before he can build us. You go to the doctors and what do when you have a wound? They open it up, they scrub it, and you feel like you're going to die, but then the healing comes out of that. 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verse number 17 to 21. I'd like us to just look at these scriptures, because it's very easy to gloss through the story of Daniel. But today we are not going to gloss over. We are going to look at the painful circumstances, all the wrong things, all the bad things, all the misery and the pain, before we can find our encouragement. Because when we say don't quit, sometimes the assumption is that when things are going well, keep holding, keep running. But we never think about, what if everything went wrong, what do you do? Listen to this, verse number 17. In fact, let me just ask you to read for me, church. Verse number 17, what does the Bible say? Where were they killed? They were killed in the sanctuary. Now here is what Nebuchadnezzar did. They would arrest the young men, they would take them into the sanctuary, and they would cut their heads, and they would pour their blood at the altar as a way of defiling the nation and showing them your God is useless. Are you with me? Let's continue reading. Let's read together, all of us, please. You know, they did not spare the young men or young women, the elderly or the infirm, you know, people who are unwell. God gave them all into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 18. In other words, the Babylonians looted the temple, they looted the homes of the people, and they carried whatever it is that was precious. Verse 19. Are you following with me? So they've come, they've entered the temple, they've looted. This is after they have killed your young men and your young women and the old people. In essence, they're just randomly killing. Now, when we read it like that, it might not carry the weight. Here is the thing. This is a genocide going on. This is a genocide going on. In fact, I will show you from a different scripture what they used to do with the young children. They would get their feet and they would lift them by their feet and they would swing them like it's a sport, and then they would dash their heads on rocks. It's a genocide that was going on. Destroy them completely. He carried into exile to Babylon the remnant who escaped from the sword. In other words, Daniel did not find himself in Babylon because they were gathered and told, hey, let's go. That they escaped the sword. Somehow, I don't know, maybe he hid under the bed. And then came out when the fire was burning and the people were tired of killing. And so they were like, carry these ones, let them go and become our slaves. I don't know. How did he survive? Because the Bible is saying that the remnant who escaped from the sword, those are the ones that were carried. Are you seeing that? The remnant. I know sometimes when you read the stories of genocides that have happened, what happened with Hitler in Nazi Germany, or what happened in Rwanda, you hear stories of people who would be buried under other dead bodies. And then at some point when they came out is when people that were cut and people thought they were dead. But then they rose up later or something like that because they weren't really dead. They were just injured or something like that. You know, I don't know what happened for this remnant to escape, but they did. Let's continue. Just read out loud as we wait for it to turn. We read about this last week, how Daniel read the story of Jeremiah, the word of God, and then he began to pray, he began to seek after God through that. Friends, it was not easy. It was a difficult situation. It was a difficult situation. Those that were carried, those that were taken into captivity, things were so bad to them that they used to gather together and mourn and cry. And they did this for many days. They tried to seek after God, but it seems as though God had turned his back on them. His temple had been burnt, God allowed it. People had been killed inside the temple, God allowed it. They are seeking, they are praying, they are asking him, And even when they do that, the words they would receive, the prophetic words they would be given, would tell them, oh, God is coming, and then God would send Jeremiah and say, that's a lie. I am not coming. You will be slaves there, for I know the plans that I have for you. Are you getting me? That verse did not come from a nice encouragement. Oh, things are going to work out well for you. It's going to be... These were people that were mourning and crying every day, trying to seek after God. They sought for prophets, but the word they got was discouragement and misery. What do you do when you find yourself in difficult situations like this? Captives, oppressed, suffering, the pain of having watched many of your friends and relatives murdered in cold blood. What do you do? Here is what they did, which many of us would end up doing the same thing. Psalm chapter 137. The Bible says this, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Here we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. For there those who carried us away captives, as captive, asked us a song. Those who plundered us requested me, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. In our pain, in our struggle, in our anguish, they came and asked us to sing some of those joyful songs that we sang in Zion. Now the Jewish people, many of their songs were about praising God. I mean, the Psalms is a collection of songs that they would sing. Some of them written by David, others written by others. And these songs, really, think about it, this is way after David. So some of the psalms that we read were songs that they would sing. Beautiful songs. And so their captors are saying, sing us some of those songs of Zion. Now these songs were songs praising God, songs of worship unto the living God. Verse number 4, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? How do you begin to sing the Lord is my shepherd when you are sitting by the river of Babylon, mourning, crying, remembering the anguish and the problems and the challenges that you went through? How do you do that? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. I'm not in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. No, these are not the still waters of Zion. These are still waters in Babylon, in a foreign land, where I am a slave. How can I sing? And so that's what they're asking. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not exalt Jerusalem above my chief joy. I don't want to be happy. I don't want to enjoy myself. I don't want to live here. I don't want to behave as though this is home. This is not home. And so I'm not going to sing. I am not going to sing. And that's why they hang their harps on the poplar trees, as one version says, as the New King James says, on the willow trees. And they refused to sing. And many of us would do that, isn't it? I mean, how do you sing? How do you sing when your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister were killed and you only survived as a remnant? You survived the sword. Maybe the guy that was killing that day got tired and he just looked at you and said, well, let's go. Remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem. What did Edom do? Edom said this, who said, raise it to its very foundation. So remember, Lord, punish Edom, who was celebrating our defeat and how we were punished and our pain and our anguish. Oh, daughter of Babylon, who are you to be destroyed? Happy the one who repays you as you have served us. How did you serve us? Happy the one who takes and dashes your little ones against the rock. In other words, may the things that have happened to us, the things that you did to us, may they happen to you also. And so they sat by the rivers of Babylon. They wept as they remembered Zion. They refuse to pray. They refuse to sing. They refuse to worship. How can you praise the Lord in a foreign land when your own city lies in ruins? And we have just witnessed, as we read in Chronicles, the horrendous, unimaginable things that were done there. Question is, even though everyone else seems to have given up and quit, how come Daniel was not sitting by the rivers of Babylon crying like everyone else? How come Daniel was not complaining and bitter and refusing to sing or to pray or to seek after God? What was different about this young man? How come he prospered and thrived in Babylon? How come he managed to influence this murderous regime and caused it to be declared that there is no God like the God of Daniel? How can one man have impacted a whole kingdom when everyone else was by the river crying? What was different about Daniel? How could he manage to join the ranks of leaders in a massive kingdom and end up influencing not even one king or two kings, more than that? Even when the kingdom changed from the Babylonians to the Persians, Daniel continued to thrive. What was different about this young man? Because I believe with everything in me that if we can learn what was Daniel's secret, if I could say so, if we can just look at his life and pick up some lessons, then somehow I believe that we can begin to impact and change the city of Mombasa and the nation of Kenya and the continent of Africa. I believe that as we study these young men, we can be able to say, you know what? We are not children of a lesser God. Our city can have clean water. Our city can have clean roads. Our city can deal with garbage. And not only that, just like it happened in Babylon, it can be declared that your God is God Almighty and there is no other. Amen. I believe that it's possible, my friends. Because if one man could change a kingdom, you can change a city. Yes. It's possible. It's possible for us to enjoy living in a city where there is beauty, wonderful, roads that are well maintained and cared for, water flowing, not just a few days, 2 days or 3 days. We celebrate when we get water 2 days in a week. Are you getting me? Or when you are stopped by a policeman like they did the other day, and they find no fault, and then finally they're asking for tea and you're like, you know what, not today. And then you drive away and you're like, yeah, I did not bribe. But here is the thing. Who even needs them by the side of the road? Because it's possible for us to obey traffic rules. It's possible for us to pick our garbage instead of throwing it but by the side of the road or trying to aim at a bin, and then if it falls on the side, it doesn't affect you or impact you in any way. It's possible for us to maintain and change things and not only just deal with our environment, deal with our hearts, deal with the hearts of men, and see God glorified and exalted in the city of Mombasa, in the nation of Kenya and beyond. My brother and my sister, if Daniel could do it, because I realize that my friends will have a crisis when we walk through the gates of heaven and you meet with Daniel. Are you hearing me? What stories will you have? Tell them, oh, I lived in a difficult city. Which one? He will ask you, were you there in Babylon? Do you know what I went through? Have you ever watched your mom or your dad or your brothers or your sister or your friends murdered, and yet you impacted and influenced and changed the same kingdom, the same regime? So don't tell me about the county government or the national government. Do not tell me about African governments. My friend, if Daniel could impact and change the Babylonian kingdom, you and I can radically affect the city of Mombasa and this nation and the dictators and rulers of Africa. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And so what was the secret? Because I believe that's where the rubber hits the road. Are you ready? Can we look at this? How did he become a fearless kingdom shaper, world changer, influencer? man who radically impacted and left a legacy. How do we do this? And by the way, this was not a minister of the gospel. He was not a prophet, as we would consider. Neither was he a Levite or a priest. He was a civil servant. Look at the person next to you and tell them, you qualify. You qualify. And so as I preach today, I am praying that God will cause you to be a Daniel in our generation, because we are in desperate need of a Daniel. A man who did not quit even when things were stacked up against him. I mean, Daniel should have failed, but he didn't. He should have quit, but he didn't. He should have given up, but he didn't. What a man to learn from. How did he do this? Number one, I believe it had everything to do with this devotion. I believe it had everything to do with this devotion. Look at the young man. In chapter number 1, he resolved in himself not to defile himself. His loyalty, his love, and his commitment to God caused him to determine not to defile himself by eating what everyone else was eating. Yes, it's good, but I'm not going to eat it. I am not going to engage in whatever people engage in. Daniel chapter 1, verse number 8. I'm going to just read many verses and move on, because we're just looking at the life of Daniel. We're just seeing the things that caused him to be different. I've already preached the sermon. I'm just giving you the points. Are we together? It had everything to do with his devotion. Daniel 1, verse number 8. But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and the wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. I don't want to eat what everyone else is eating. I don't want to engage in whatever else people are engaging in. No, I will not do that. Daniel chapter 2, verse number 17 to 19. The Bible says, then Daniel went home, told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so that they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. Let me just pause here before I read verse number 19. You know, as in the Babylonian kingdom was so ruthless, not just to captives, but even its own people. You do not tell the king what he wants to hear, you're gone, you're dead. Are you getting me? If you brought Daniel to Mombasa today, on this day, 20th of August, 2017, he would think you guys live in paradise. That you can actually say whatever you want. Let me continue reading verse 19. That night, the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. Remember, we are looking at his devotion. I believe it had everything to do with his devotion. His devotion to God. Daniel 2, verse number 27 and 28. Daniel replied, there are no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secret. I mean, how can somebody just tell you what you dreamt? Daniel says, no one can tell you. Verse 28, I love verse 28. He said, but there is a God in heaven. There is a God in heaven. There is a God who reveals secrets. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I'll tell you your dream and the vision you saw as you lay on your bed. In other words, I am not here because I'm sharper than anyone else. I am not telling you this because I am better than anyone else, King. I'd like you to know that there is a God in heaven. His devotion to this God, he never took credit even one day. He gave all the glory, all the praise, and all the honor to the living God. He served this God. And my question to you is, how is your devotion? How is your devotion? Are you devoted to the God of heaven and earth? You see, I can continue reading and reading and reading. Remember what we read last week? When the people are looking for something to accuse Daniel of, they said you will never find anything to accuse Daniel of except something that has to do with his God. In other words, his devotion This man, his devotion was known even by people who had no interest in his God. How is our devotion? Are we known by our work colleagues that we believe in God? Are we known for our faith? Or are we wishy-washy in our devotion to the King? Praying when it feels like. When you feel like. That's when we pray. Reading the Bible when it's convenient. Allowing all kinds of things to run and rule our lives. When the program on TV is nice and entertaining, prayer and the reading of the Bible gets pushed to the back shelf. When friends are hanging out and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to miss, you hang out with them. And you end up not praying or seeking after God. How is our devotion? How is our devotion? When Daniel heard that an edict had been passed, that no one should pray, the Bible tells me he still went home, opened his windows. He did not close his windows. Opened his windows, faced Jerusalem and prayed. In other words, his devotion surpassed anything else. How committed are we to God? When we're given a choice, I am sorry to say this, between prayer and praying and eating, many of us end up picking eating. When given a choice between prayer and laughing with friends, many times we choose friends. When you're given a choice between watching a movie and reading our Bible, many times we choose the movie. I mean, in our day, we're even choosing the gym over a devotional time. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. The reason why I brought it up is because he's been trying to establish a devotional habit in the morning. Waking up at 5, he told me it's too early. So I said, okay, you can wake up at 6 and just get time to pray, even if it's just 30 minutes. And he said, Pastor, waking up at 6, I've tried all my life, it's difficult. I'm not able to do it. And so he would wake up at 7, dash into the bathroom, and dash out and head to work. But the other day, he was telling me how he has been going to the gym at 5. Because he wants to keep fit and be healthy. And I reminded him of our conversation. I mean, is it okay for a pastor to remind somebody about heaven and their commitment to God? I did that. I said, but you told me it's impossible for you to wake up at 6. 5! My goodness, 5! Think about it. Can your devotion to God change this city? Can your devotion to God change your estate? Can it change your office? Can it change the people who know you and hang around you? Number 2, the first thing, it had everything to do with his devotion. Number 2, it must have been out of his discipline. That the reason why he did not quit, it must have been out of his discipline. Discipline. Talk about a disciplined man. Daniel, they could not find anything to accuse him of. That calls for a very disciplined man. He prayed at specific times. He fasted for days upon days. We even have a fasting program named after him. We say the Daniel fast. Are you hearing me? Because fasting for him is something that he did all the time. He fasted and prayed for many days. He read the word of God. We saw that last week, that he read from the book of Jeremiah, and it changed the way he lived and the way that he prayed. But at the same time, even though this man was so disciplined and dedicated in his seeking after God, he was so disciplined in his work that they tried to look for something to accuse him of, and they did not find. They did not find. And not only that, that he was working, and this guy worked better than all his peers. Every time Daniel is mentioned, he's being promoted to become an overseer of others because of his discipline, because of his excellence. In fact, the Bible says an excellent spirit was found in Daniel. So when you gave him a task, he did not just do it, he did it with excellence. When you required him to arrive somewhere, he arrived in good time. And on top of that, he had time to interpret mysteries and dreams as the Lord revealed them to him and write them down. Daniel chapter 6, verse number 10 and 11, the Bible says, now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he has done before. What a discipline. That it does not matter what people say, it does not affect or change my life or my lifestyle. Nothing. They will not change me. Now, these men went as a group and found Daniel praying and asking God for help. In other words, they knew what time Daniel prayed. And so they came to listen, to hear. My question to you is, do your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your colleagues at work, do they know what time you pray? If they wanted to catch in regard to your prayer time, would they catch you? Please help me here. Ask your neighbor. Just ask them, and just tell them, please be truthful to me. Your workmates, can they be able to catch you based on your devotion? Just ask them that. Let me read for us a verse from Daniel chapter 8. Daniel 8, verse number 27, the Bible says, I, Daniel, was worn out. I lay exhausted for several days. This is after an angel appeared to him and began to give him a revelation, a dream, and he had come out of a season of fasting. Then I got up and went about the king's business. Are you seeing what is happening here? I lay exhausted for several days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. He served faithfully. There is no day, Daniel said, I am serving a kingdom that killed my relatives and all. I will not do what I'm supposed to do. I do not even vote for this government. And so I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do. Daniel never did anything like that. What a disciplined man. You couldn't catch him with any bribe that he had given. You couldn't catch him with any project he had left undone. You could not catch him because of an email he did not send. Because they looked for something that they would accuse him of. I will not even ask you whether if your workmates wanted to accuse you, they can find something. Let's not even go there. It's too convicting, isn't it? It's too convicting. Let's just say Daniel was a disciplined man. Are you in agreement? What discipline? I mean, these guys got somebody to follow him with a camera. Hidden camera. To try and find something to accuse him of. Even when he threw his garbage, he made sure it went into the right bin. It did not fall by the side. There is no way you would have caught Daniel having opened the car window and thrown garbage out of the door. Like sometimes we do. Are you hearing? Daniel. He didn't walk away with extra change and think, oh my goodness, what a blessing. I was trusting God for provision. Are you hearing me? Daniel did not pick his call and then told you, I'm just around the corner. Whereas he was in Mtwapa and you're waiting for him in Shimanzi. He didn't do that. There was nothing they could accuse him of. Nothing. What a discipline. Number 3, and I am done. It definitely had to do with his dedication. It definitely had to do with his dedication. This man was so dedicated to serving the Babylonian kingdom that kings came and went and they left him still serving faithfully. Can you imagine a state house controller in the nation of Kenya, or maybe a cabinet secretary, or secretary to the cabinet, who, even when the government changes, the new president comes and says, I still want that man. Because of his excellence. And he's not even part of the tribe. Hello? He's not one of them. He's not a Babylonian. And so it's not nepotism. It's because of how he works. His dedication. New kings came. And when they had no idea about Daniel, they were told about him. They were told about him. What stories will be told about us in the city of Mombasa in years to come? What stories will be told about you in the organization where you're working on today? What stories will be told about you and about me by the generations that will come in years that we are headed into? Daniel chapter 5 verse number 10 to 12, the Bible says this: the queen, because of the words of the king, this is Belteshazzar, he's come to the place where there's a writing on the wall. He's so afraid. He has called everyone he can, all the people he knows, to try and interpret, read for him what is written on the wall. And no one can find. And so the queen comes in and says this. The queen spoke, O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom, in whom is the spirit of the holy God. Did you hear those words? This is not the confession of the leader of the women's guild. This is not the worship leader or the pastor speaking about one of the members of the church. This is a queen whose husband has just been told, hey, but by God, your days are numbered. I am done with you. Because of the profanities and the things that he had done. And even her, she was part of it. But here's her confession about this young man called Daniel. Well, at this point he's, I believe, an old man. O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom, in whom is the spirit of the holy God. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting of dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation. It's interesting. The king called him a certain name, and the queen still refers to him as Daniel. Can you imagine that you're so devoted, so disciplined? Are you with me? And so dedicated in the way that you live your life, that your identity cannot even be changed or altered by the culture of the people around you. You're the one who changes. You're the one who impacts. You're the one who influences. It's not the other way around. The king gives you a name, but it doesn't stick. People still talk about you as Daniel. Because your stories and the things that they hear about you are so powerful that nobody wants that erased or changed in any way. We talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All right? I mean, I love those boys. I love their faith. But here is the thing. Where did they go after Daniel chapter 2 and chapter 3? Where did they go? We're not told anything about them, are we? We don't know what happened. But here's the thing. Even their names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are names that were given in Babylon. But Daniel was a man who even the name given did not stick. Call me whatever you want, but it will not stick. because of my faith and my dedication and my commitment and my pursuing God, my culture does not affect me. I affect culture. Mombasa does not influence me. I influence Mombasa. You know, everyone else can throw garbage. Everyone else can say. Everyone else can talk. Everyone else can do whatever. But you know what? When I show up, things change around me. That's the kind of person that I'm calling you to be today. A man that influences and changes everything around you. If you think I'm making this up, let me read for you the last. I have many other verses to read, but I think I need to read verse number 17. Daniel 5, verse 17. Here's what the Bible says. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be to yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing on the wall for the king, and make it known to him what it says. Here is the thing. I mean, he is looking at the king straight in the face and saying, keep your gifts. Keep your gifts. You cannot buy me. I did not come. I'm not leaving. I am not doing what I'm doing because of what I can get. That's not why I'm here. I am here to do God's will, to honor God, to glorify God. This was the kind of man that we are talking about. Verse number 22, same chapter, Daniel 5. The Bible says this, but you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You have brought the vessels of this house, of his house, before you, and your lords and your wives and your concubines, and have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver, gold, and bronze, iron and wood, stone, and all others, which do not see or hear or know. And the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways, you have not glorified. What a rebuke. This is a captive from Israel, whose nation was destroyed, people killed in a genocide, who is a foreigner in this land. He has been called to come and say something to the king, and he does not mince his words. Are you seeing that rebuke? He does not mince his words. But unlike Daniel, in this day and age, we beg kings and rulers for favors. We bow before MCAs and county executives and governors. We are intimidated by authorities and have no qualms giving up God's glory to men. Our dedication is to things and favors and what we can get from them and what we can get for ourselves, not the honor and the glory that we can bring to God. We need to turn. We need to begin serving for God's name and God's glory. You and I call us today, my friends, to come to the place where our devotion, our discipline, and our dedication to God and his purposes surpasses everything else, so that we may be that generation that will change our city, impact our nation, and the continent of Africa. I believe with everything in me that things can change. In fact, I believe that we do not need 5 years or 4 years or 3 years. I believe that we can change this city in the next 1 month or 2 months. I believe that we can bring transformation, because I believe that when you are devoted, when you are disciplined, and you are dedicated, you will bring change where you are. And as you bring change where you are, and I bring change where I am, it will become a wave that begins to form, and we can radically change this city. Are you hearing what I'm saying? You and I can change Mombasa. You and I can cause our children to grow up in a place where God's name is honored and exalted and praised. You and I can change the direction of this nation, my friends. Mombasa and Kenya and our world can change. We can impact our society for God's glory. Are you dedicated? Are you disciplined? Are you devoted to God? Because we need to do this, my friends. We need to do this. We can change the statistics. We can change the direction. We can change the narrative. Everything can change for God's glory. Are you willing? Are you willing to say, God, I'm available like Daniel. Use me. Do whatever it is that you desire in me and through me. Would you change would you cause even your name to be exalted? People make fun about the church, but you know what? It's time for us to be a church where people pursue and seek after God in such a way when they meet a Christian from ICC Mombasa, they say, wait, there's something different about those. Are you hearing me? And then we begin to impact other churches. We begin to impact our city. We begin to impact our nation. It's time to change the script, my friends. If Daniel could make a change in crazy Babylon, my friends, we can. You and I can. We can change the narrative. Heavenly Father, I pray, would you raise for yourselves a remnant out of this place like you did with Daniel. I pray, my God, that you will help me and you will help us to be so devoted to you, oh God, that our walk with you will be the most important things that we do. That, Father, will not trade you for anything else. May we know your word. May we know your voice. May we know your ways. And I pray that God will be so disciplined that we'll live our lives in such a way that if somebody was to search, to look, to check, even the time that we arrive at work and the things that we do when we are at work, when they check the way we conduct ourselves through the day or through the night, my God, they will not find anything to accuse us of. Lord, I pray that we'll be a disciplined people. And I pray that God will be so dedicated to serve your purposes and bring glory and honor to your name. Lord, would you help us? You use Daniel. Use us again in this generation. So that God, those that know us and see us and interact with us will bring you praise. May it be declared in Mombasa like it was declared in Babylon. That there is no other God to be worshipped apart from the God of Daniel. God, I pray that we'll serve you in this city and people will begin to say there is a God in heaven. There is a God in heaven because we serve you, we seek you, we worship you, and we live our lives for you. And let it not just be in Mombasa, but let there be a difference in the nation of Kenya. And so today I pray that Lord will not bow our heads in shame, but will lift up our heads in praise. As we say, we refuse to sit by the rivers of Babylon. We'll pick up everything and go after God's purpose. This is my prayer. This is my prayer.